Welcome gallery staff and councillors to the Richmond Valley Council Ordinary Meeting on the 25th of June 2024. I'll open the meeting with the acknowledgement of country. Richmond Valley Council recognises the people of the Bundjalung Nations as custodians and traditional owners of this land, and we value and appreciate the continuing culture connection to lands, their living culture and their unique role in the life of this region in the past, present and future. Mr General Manager, could you read the prayer, please?
Dear Lord, we meet to serve our Richmond Valley community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, and to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognise our responsibility to the past and the future, and the rights and needs of both individuals and community. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and on our efforts here today. May we act wisely and well. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I believe there's no request for public access, Mr General Manager.
No, none received.
We have one apology from Councillor McGillen. Could I get a mover, please?
Move, Mr Mayor.
Yep, second.
Put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. There is no mayoral minute. Go to page 6, confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 21st of May 2024. Could I get a mover, please?
Move, Mr
Councillor
Mayor.
Morrissey, seconder. Councillor Deegan. Is everyone okay with the accuracy of the minutes? Put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. Matters arising out of the minutes. Has any councillor got any matters arising? I have one on page 10 of the attachments. It's item 14, the draft mid-Richmond place plans, 15.1, sorry, not 14, 15.1. Mr General Manager, those place plans went out back to public exhibition. Could I get an update of those information sessions that were held in some of those communities, please?
Sure. I'm not sure whether Director Jones is in a position, given her recent distractions with the Land Environment Court. Did you want to give an update, or do you want me to ask Jenna? Yeah, might be better. I'll get Jenna as Angela's been otherwise distracted, so I'll get
Thank you.
our Chief of Staff just to give us an update on where that's up to. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. To support the exhibition of the documents, a number of information sessions were held at Woodburn, Broadwater, Corrakai and Evans Head. The Woodburn consultation also included a workshop where members of the community and business owners walked about the village and discussed various options. So those activities were well attended, and there was some good feedback provided by the public. We've since received a number of written submissions, and these are currently being assessed by the consultants, and the final results of the exhibition will be presented to Council's July meeting.
Thank you. Is there any other matters arising? We'll move on then. Declarations of interest. Mr General Manager, have any declarations, or any councillors have any?
So I've received two. So I'll just read those. So from the Mayor, Councillor Musto, in the matter of item 15.1, being the Richmond Valley Regional Job Precinct. It's a pecuniary interest as owner of land in that precinct, and I understand the Mayor will leave the meeting for that item. And the second one, again, is from Councillor Musto for item 15.3, being the overheight industrial building at 35 Cassino Drive. On this one, it's a non-pecuniary interest, as the Mayor has a relative who works for the applicant, and it will remain for that item. Thanks.
Mr Mayor, I also have a non-pecuniary, non-significant
declaration to make on 15.1 as well. I'm a committee member of Cow FM and the station is located in the RJP area.
Thank you. Any other declarations? Item 9, petitions, nil. We now go over to page 8, notice of motion, and we have 10.1 from Councillor Stephen Morrissey, Centre Street Casino Roundabouts. Councillor Morrissey, I'll take you as moving that.
Yes, please, Mr Mayor.
Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Deegan. Councillor Morrissey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It seems a bit of deja vu here. I seem to have done this a few times, but I'm just sort of trying one last time maybe. We'll just see how we go. And there's something in each paragraph there that sort of has something to do with all the activities on those areas, and just try again.
Thank you. Councillor Deegan, a seconder? No. Any other speakers? Councillors, I think this is a very important issue for our community, and with the regional job precinct, which is an item later, and also hopefully the 1,500 lots, the subdivision at Fairy Hill, and some further industrial development. And I just think we need to get those roundabouts or those intersections brought up to the standard of a roundabout or lights, because this has been going on and on and on, and you can see the buses coming out of Richmond Street from the primary school. They line up and then the traffic will actually stop because the community knows that those buses have to get the children home, and they block the whole Bruxner Highway. And the reason it hasn't been getting funding from black spots is because they're not dangerous enough, but that's because the people are all polite and complying with helping the schools buses to get out on the road. And we all know at the Catholic Church Corner, it's very, very busy, and people aren't going there to those two intersections because they can't get through, so they go through the main street of town to get to the Cecil Hotel roundabout, and then it comes congested. So we definitely need those roundabouts or lights to get the people, the traffic out of our CBD. So I fully support the notice of motion. Any other speakers? Right, a reply?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just thanks for the support, councillors and Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Page 9, the mayoral attendance report. I'll move that. Can I get a seconder, please?
Second, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Morrissey, any questions?
Yes, Mr Mayor. The Northern Rivers Community Leaders Forum. Just wonder if there's anything coming out of that in relation to the Richmond Valley Council.
The Leaders Forum. No, it was more regional last time, the compact getting put together for all councils, which we've discussed. No, there was a bit of talk about the funding for the Fairy Hill development, but other than that, I raised a couple of issues for the lower river. But no, it was they only go for an hour, so that's the time frame they allow, and you've got 7 councils in there, and it's more or less a information briefing of what the Reconstruction Authority is doing. And one of the items I did raise was the Broadwater Primary School. It's urgent that a determination from the Reconstruction Authority come out about that. What's going to happen with the DA? Is it still going to stay with council, or is it going to be go back to the Department of Education? So hopefully there'll be some news in coming weeks on that.
Thank you.
Can I just jump in there? Is that gathering the one that used to be the Reconstruction? Was it Northern Rivers Recovery Community Leader Forum, and now it's changed?
It's the mayors and mainly the politicians that are in it, and it's always a phone hookup. So
for the recovery, the flood recovery, that's
yeah,
been buried
no,
into that now.
It's not the recovery; it's the Reconstruction Authority now. So yeah.
Okay, so it's changed. Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
One more question, Mr Mayor. Not on that one, but a separate. thing. On the 28th of May, Norton's Gap road inspection. Is there any update on how things are going with that, Norton's Gap?
Yeah, I have, and I was very fortunate and pleased to go out onto that, and I've requested the next one in July, and that all councils be invited to go onto that. It's a project that's worth seeing. 400 or 500 metres of the landslip that's getting repaired, and I did put up a Facebook page about it, post, and like, until you get out there and see it, you've got these 10-metre holes drilled and they're mostly 600 across. You can't see the bottom of them, and unfortunately, up the top of the hill, when they drill them out, a lot of the dirt falls in, so then they've got to pour concrete into them and then re-drill them in a couple of days to stop the dirt from falling into them. It's a very, very demanding job, but when you see it, you understand why there's $15 million being spent on 400 to 500 metres, where you can reseal and redo a road, reconstruct a road in a flat area for around $1 million. This is half the length and 15 times the price. It's a massive, massive job. And when the time comes to do the next inspection, I'd encourage all councillors just to come and have a look. Hopefully by then all the bores will be filled and they're starting to put the top beam across the top. So,
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
thank you. Any other questions? Put that motion then. All those in favour? Carried. Delegates' reports, nil. Matters determined without debate. Has any councillor got any matters?
15.1, Mr Mayor. 15.3, planning.
15.3?
Yeah, planning, is that right? That's a planning matter, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And 17.3.
17.3? Any other councillors?
15.2, thank you.
Any other? I'll call 17.5. So, Mr General Manager, I believe we need a recommendation for 17.1, 17.2 and 17.6. Yeah? Oh, point 4, there it is hiding in there, yep. Could I get a motion then, please, to
Move this,
adopt
Mayor.
17.1, 17.2, 17.4 and 17.6? Move Councillor Morrissey, seconder.
Second.
Councillor Cornish. Put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 14, General Manager Report, nil. And I'll now vacate the chair and get Councillor Morris, Deputy Mayor, to fill in.
Councillors, 15.1, I move the recommendation. Could I have a seconder, please?
Yeah, second.
Councillor Hayes. Mr General Manager, have you got any comment in relation to this final finalisation of the master plan?
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Look, I think given the importance of this project, I'm happy just to give a bit of an overview, and obviously it's the culmination of a few years of hard work, obviously in partnership with Regional New South Wales and the Regional Development Corporation. It's been quite a journey, with obviously the floods in 2022 delaying things considerably. We'd almost adopted our flood modelling and then it had to be redone, so that in effect delayed the project probably close to 12 months. So it's been quite a journey, but good things come to those who are patient, and I think we're close to being there. So what is set out in this report is obviously the detail of the draft master plan that went out, and obviously the feedback we've received and the adjustments at the Department of Regional New South Wales will be making to the master plan prior to it then being submitted to the Minister for Planning, who needs to approve the master plan, and then that will obviously move on to changes to the Richmond Valley Local Environment Plan. The aim of the Richmond Valley Regional Jobs Precinct is about streamlining the planning process. It's about getting the technical reports and as much of the planning work done up front for the land that is within the precinct. There are other precincts like this in New South Wales, and then making the relevant adjustments with the aim of casino in the Richmond Valley being a good place to invest, whether that be existing businesses or whether it's attracting businesses to our area. So I think it places us well, and obviously subject to the resolution of council tonight, the aim is that it will then go to the Minister and be finalised, and the aim is that the changes to the LEP will be done by the end of this year. So that's the time frame that's been indicated. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. Any other speakers? Councillor Hayes.
Yeah, I've got a few questions based around the planning. In the document it goes through, there's lots of stuff in there about noise and odour, particularly from out Namoona and based around the co-op and those two areas. And it goes on to talk about the possible subdivision, housing residential subdivision out at Ferry Hill, which I think is further away than what the existing subdivisions are in Casino. Doesn't address much of what we're doing to prohibit noise and odours going back into the existing residential areas. It addresses it that they can be addressed under separate DAs at a later date, but we look like we've done nothing in the planning, or very little in the planning, to reduce the effect of the odours seeping back into that area of town and noise. It just, there's not a lot in there, but it always talks about doing stuff to stop it from going the other way.
Are you referring specifically to the draft master plan, or are you referring to the technical reports that are? Well, because there's technical reports
all through
done
everything. It's through everything. There's technical reports in there that don't really answer that question or bring it up in great detail, and I'm just wondering if it's going to raise its head at some point.
I don't know, do you have any comments on that, Director Jones?
Through you, Mr Mayor. From my recollection of that noise and odour modelling, with the prevailing winds, most of the the areas that would be impacted would be to that northwest area where we're looking at that future development. So I can't recall footprints going over our existing, or significantly over our existing residential areas as outlined in that report, but happy to look further at it. There's a lot of things we can do to mitigate with regards to noise. We look at our sensitive receivers, so all of those issues would be addressed at the time of a development application for a particular land use. And there's ways of designing buildings and restricting hours of operation and a number of parameters that we can utilise to make sure that we don't have any significant impacts on sensitive receivers when looking at approving new developments.
Just to comment on this work has been done obviously by Department of Regional New South Wales in conjunction with the Department of Planning, so it's obviously being done in line with the requirements of the New South Wales planning system, and that's the basis of which these technical reports would have been done, and they would have met the standards that are required for planning and the planners in regional New South Wales to put these forward and to be seeking the approval of the Minister. I know that in the plans, it does talk about buffer zones and the odour footprints and how this can happen, and it's certainly something we're very conscious of and that these, and again, when DAs are submitted, there's then a follow-on process of assessment and community consultation that would need to be gone through at that time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor
I've got another question. At the top of Namoona there's rural land. Are there building entitlements across that rural land for future?
When you say at the top of Namoona, what are you referring to?
Up past the NRLX, up that way.
So land that's within the regional job precinct itself?
It's on that map, yeah, in the brown.
Do you know which bit he's referring to?
So through you, Deputy Mayor.
Sorry.
NRLX and the property that's to the north of that, which is the Casino Rail Freight Terminal Facility site. Is that what you're talking about?
That's on, as you're looking at that plan, it's on the left, and further up round the top it goes into rural. It's coloured in brown on that map.
There would be dwelling entitlements on some of those rural holdings because they would meet the minimum standard requirements for dwelling opportunities. I do know that there's large parcels of land to the northeast of that precinct, which are mainly land holdings by the Casino Food Co-op. Given they're over that 40 hectares, there would be opportunities, dwelling opportunities on those, but currently they're being used for farming. So I would say there would be limited and sparse dwelling opportunities in that vicinity that you're talking about.
And is there none on the Casino Rail Freight Terminal site, which has an approved DA?
I can't remember the exact number of hectares, but I dare say that site is over 40 hectares, so by definition it would more than likely have a dwelling opportunity and entitlement on that site. Whether it's ever realised or the proponent of that site wants a dwelling, that would be subject to further development application processes and considerations.
And that site, that development application, or that development, it's an approved DA, is it substantially started, or is it sitting?
Yes, that has substantially commenced. It satisfied conditions of consent to tick that box for commenced, so it is an active consent that won't lapse.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. Director Jones.
Just a
Councillor
question through you to the General Manager. Mr General Manager, in the response to the submissions report, it does refer to the land, the hectares of land within the precincts, and it says that there's a lot of extra, they've got more than they need for the projected future. Would some of that perhaps be able to be in those buffers, or is it completely different? That Councillor Hayes is concerned about.
It can. Yeah, look, it's more land than projected, but so yeah, some of that land can be used as buffers. Again, that will be something that, depending on the nature of a development that is proposed on whichever block of land, that would need to be considered, and if it's a noise generating development or there is odour, they are all things that would still need to be taken into account. But obviously these technical reports given a good initial indication of what can and can't happen in that whole precinct.
Thank you, Mr General Manager.
Thank you. I would like to just make a couple of comments, because I really feel that this is a really big deal, and it's a great deal. It's been a good deal that was offered to Richmond Valley Council by the New South Wales Government. It's an opportunity that's like no other that I've ever experienced as a councillor. And Richmond Valley Council was well placed to confidently accept it. The breadth and the experience and expertise, the diversity of the knowledge that has been pooled to inform this plan is quite remarkable. I don't feel or believe that we could have achieved this as a standalone council. Also, our own council staff, with their dedication and commitment to just really push it forward and get to this point. Supporting and endorsing this plan will see the establishment of a regional employment hub here in our hometown of Casino and in our Richmond Valley. The RJP will facilitate growth in industry, agribusiness and manufacturing, creating more jobs and a diversity in job opportunities and economic stimulus throughout our Richmond Valley and the region. It's expected to yield 335 hectare, and I know when the consultant was in talking to us at the information session, that's one of the pieces of information that I took home, was that massive amount of land that is available, adding approximately 94 hectares of new industrial land to the 241 hectare already zoned within the RJP, of which 130 hectare is already developed. When we go back to the community consultation, with regard to that, the role of the consultation was under the Department of Regional New South Wales and the Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure. The public consultation over that period received 54 written community submissions and 9 from agencies, including one from our council. A comprehensive response to the submissions report is available, and interestingly divided into 23 themes for easy access to main sections of interest. The proposed changes and updates can be found on pages 13 and 14 of a council's agenda tonight, and also in the exhibited documents included in the response to the submissions report. The changes are there on pages 27 and 28. I'd just like to say that the vision for the RJP, as included in the response to the submissions report, reads that Richmond Valley is set to become the North Coast region's leader in agribusiness and industry, as partners align through the Richmond Valley precinct to deliver employment, housing, specialised and skill development and new opportunities to invest. The Richmond Valley precinct will become a resourceful, adaptable and attractive place to do business. So I support let's get that letter to the Minister as soon as possible. It's been challenging at times, as the General Manager said, but a wonderful journey to be a part of.
Thank you, Councillor Humphries. Councillor Hayes.
Just back on the buffer zones, on page 89 of the attachments, it says here, this is in the precinct for the Casino Food Co-op, it says, the key factor limiting expansion of industry development within this sub-precinct is the proximity of nearby residential development and the need to maintain effective buffers within the precinct as described in Chapter 7. Now, I haven't read Chapter 7, so... It says, however, there are opportunities to expand co-op processing and packaging operations. Okay, so processing and packaging. The next paragraph says, plans are being developed for a proposed biodigester adjoining the existing co-op operations and the North Coast Railway line. The proposal is to process waste product from an abattoir and other sources to produce energy, which can be, which is all good. That's a great thing. But how do the two coexist when we're saying in one thing that they're limited to expansion to only opportunities to expand processing and packaging, yet the next paragraph they're saying they're going to lodge this application and it's a separate state significant development application. To me, it's going to have trouble just by those couple of statements. It tells you that it's. Or am I getting that wrong?
What, the biodigester is?
Yeah.
Well, the biodigester is a state significant development, so it's going to need to satisfy those requirements around, whether it's odour or noise, or so it would need to be, constrained to the site. I understand that the site of the biodigester is on the existing co-op land, so that'll be something that is considered through that state development process.
I guess what I'm getting at, have we done enough in this master plan to accommodate everything that we've got in the back of our minds that could happen out there?
Well, I think
Are we
we've
going to
done.
be disappointed?
Oh, look, I think we've done. I think there's about 10 or 12 technical reports, so that a lot of minds have turned their mind to this precinct and what can't happen, what some of the constraints will be, and dealt with a lot of the requirements. The planning process here is more than $1 million worth of consultants and advice and expertise that has developed this master plan. I think the key point everyone needs to keep in mind is that when a development comes in here, it still has to go through a DA process. The aim is that this basis of technical advice will enable a more, almost give development a head start. So there'll still be some things that need to be looked at, assessed, and obviously community consultation. But it's given us a head start on what can and can't happen in the different parts of the precinct. I think, and again, this is a technical report from one consultant or consulting firm. Someone goes and procures another one. They actually might have a slightly different opinion. And there might be technological advances that mean that a certain technology that's, whether it's a biodigester or whatever it is, doesn't emit or it doesn't generate noise. So it's a basis that puts us in a better position. It's still, there's still processes that we'll have to go through. So I think that's, again, an important point.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Any other speakers? I'll put that motion then. All in favour? Thank you. Somebody like to? Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you. Now move to page 15.2, item 15.2, and I believe Councillor Humphreys call that, moving that.
Move the recommendation, thanks.
Can I get a seconder, please?
Yeah,
Councillor Hayes, Councillor Humphreys.
Oh, thanks very much. It has been on public exhibition and no submissions were received, but I think it's interesting that a new schedule has been placed in the plan. We've had legislation updates in the plan, but also the new schedule, and the amount being forecast to be spent over the 10 years is 5.8 million. It's at this point in time, as we change over for the term of council, I think it's important to point out that although those programs and that work on the public amenities and services like parks and community facilities and local roads and footpaths, although the schedule of works has been adopted, it's flexible and can always be changed as a budget might determine, or there might be other constraints. There might be more money come in through those fees. So although there would need to be community consultation if that process happens, I believe the schedule holds up really well with what we've talked about within our communities at the time, and is flexible to be changed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hayes?
Yeah, just a quick one. When we collect these fees in at development application stage, approval stage, what areas of our area already have those fees applied? Like what subdivisions, what new subdivisions have paid those fees up front? It says in there that where is it? It says that they're levied against subdivisions when subdivisions are approved, but do they keep going right down the line once more developments are actually approved on that subdivision? That's how it works?
Mr. General Manager, Director Joan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct, Councillor Hayes. So the contributions plan that Council has adopted collects a percentage of the costs of the development. So you would levy a development for a subdivision based on that cost of works to create that subdivision for the roads, the stormwater infrastructure, etc. When houses get built, or other infrastructure on those blocks that have been created by subdivision, they are levied also. So it depends on the dollar amount of that capital investment and the percentage that is levied at the time of that particular development. So yes, it does, depending on what's happening, there's levies that are applicable.
So they apply on every bit of land in the Richmond Valley Council area?
There are some areas that there might be an old consent that has been levied with the old plan, and there might be another stage or something like that. So we would need to go back through our records to determine whether any levies have been paid on those lots or not. So there's a sort of a changeover period where, in a point in time, that we do have to go do some research on the history of how those lots were created and what levies have been paid. But from a sort of a line in the sand perspective, anything that's new, we certainly have been applying this formula with these types of 94A contributions. Now they're called 712s under the new legislation. We've been applying that structure of collecting levies for some time at Richmond Valley Council, but there may be some historic elements that we need to research prior to levying.
There would be some lots created decades ago that would never have paid any levy because they wouldn't have been in those days. Back in the early 1900s and things like that.
Yes, yeah.
So they'll only pick them up when they go to development on those blocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other speakers? I just mentioned that the plan that we've got, I think there's some very exciting news for some of our communities, and $580,000 a year to go into those projects. It's a good slug of money, and the community will benefit by that allocation. Any other one, councillors? Councillor Humphries, right or reply?
No, thank you.
Put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. 15.3, page 17. Councillor Morrissey.
Move that, Mr Mayor.
Can I get a seconder,
Second.
please? Councillor Humphries. Councillor Morrissey.
I'll just pull that out, Mr Mayor, because it was a planning matter, but on page 19, second paragraph of the consultation, public exhibition period had not been finalised when preparing this report. However, as at 12th of June 2024, Council received no submissions. An update on the exhibition outcome will be provided at the council meeting.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm not aware of any submissions that have been made in the last couple of days post that exhibition finalising.
Thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Humphries.
Mr Mayor, out of curiosity, and because it states in the report that this DA, well, this has been identified in the RJP as included in the master plan, which proposes to remove the building height. Out of curiosity, if the master plan had already been adopted, would this DA have been brought to council under any other circumstances?
Mr General Manager.
No. So, yeah, under the RJP, it is certainly proposed for the height limit to be removed, and so I don't think there's a circumstance where, certainly not for height. There may be other triggers as to why it needs to come to council, but as far as where there won't be a height limit per se, which is why this requirement is in place at the moment, because the variation is more than 10% of our limit.
So it is a good example of how the whole process can be streamlined.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other speakers? Right or reply, Councillor?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. I believe we move to 17.3 on page 25. Election period procurement. Councillor Morrissey, I believe you moved this one too.
That's right, Mr Mayor. I'll move that.
Seconder.
Second.
Councillor Cornish. Councillor Morrissey.
Yes, Mr Mayor, just a question on this one, if I can ask the Mr General Manager, in relation to the delegation for you to undertake. Does it sort of happen in many other government areas?
Mr General Manager.
Thanks for the question. The short answer is yes. Some councils actually have more significant delegations in place for their general managers ongoing for significantly larger amounts of money. Obviously, we operate that anything that goes to tender comes to council. The intent of this report is to stick with that principle as much as we can. But the other reason why we've brought this forward is to keep momentum on recovery in particular, because we know that's what our community wants. And so our aim is as much as possible to bring, and our planning has been to bring tenders to the July meeting, but we're also working, as it's stated in the report, on potentially having an extraordinary meeting on the 6th of August to make any of those tenders so we can keep going with most of them are either their recovery or infrastructure projects to keep them going. They're all, and the other key point is that they're all in council's approved plans. They're all in line with budgets. And so this report, I suppose, outlines that's our intent, but it also, and the reason this is necessary is obviously this year is a local government election in September, and so there are specific requirements put in place for those elections and for what are referred to as caretaker provisions. And so from the period of Friday the 16th of August to Friday the 13th of September, there is a caretaker period. The election is on the 14th of September, and that specifically prevents, the aim is to specifically prevent outgoing councils making major decisions that could impact on the decisions of an incoming council, and specifically identifies that you can't make controversial development application decisions, award large contracts, or appoint a new general manager. So they're the three things specifically set out in the pre-election guide for councils, which is a New South Wales government publication. So that's I suppose the rationale. So just to reiterate, it does happen elsewhere. But the intent, as it's set out on page 27, and I think it's important because it is, it's delegating your authority to a general manager. So it's not something that you should do lightly. And the aim is that, those points, the tender must be a project previously approved by council. So it's in our budget, it's in our plans. It must be within the adopted budget and agreed scope, and must align with the requirements of any funding deed. So obviously we've got a lot of current funding deeds with, in particular, Transport for New South Wales, but also with the federal government agencies. So we have timelines that we need to meet with them, and this will enable us to, stick to those timeframes. So that's the intent of the recommendation on this one.
Thank you, Mr General Manager.
Any other speakers? I'll just note there on page 26, these works, when just reiterating what the General Manager said, these works have set time tables and project milestones attached to the funding arrangements, and it is important that they continue on schedule. We can't get behind and then have the funding challenged or have to go through the whole process of reapplying to extension. That's just more work. But the thing for me is some of these projects, they're vital for our community in the disaster recovery process. The community have waited now and suffered through the disaster, and we need to get those projects back to them to have each of as soon as we can. And if it gets bogged down for 2 months, it's just not delivering what our community needs. The other thing I might add is I know of some councils, because recently a mayor told me that they've just delegated up to $25 million to the General Manager on projects if they want to award tenders. And I just said to him, well, we don't do that. We have tenders come to us so we can ask questions and around it. So I think what we're doing here for a few months or a couple of months is well within the scope of what our community expects us to do, so these projects can be delivered on time. Any other speakers?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, this certainly is the preferred process, my way of thinking. And if you look at the projects that are about to go to tender, they are hugely vital to our community. And you're right, the community has been waiting for a long time. This will ensure that there is no loss of time, and we do keep that momentum. And there should also then not be any increased expenditure, which may occur if we just dilly-dallied and didn't keep working away at these tenders. So this is a really good process, and I thank you for bringing it to us.
Any other speakers? Councillor Morrissey?
No right of reply, Mr Mayor, thank you.
Put that motion and all those in favour. Carried. 7.5. I'll move that. Can I get a seconder, please?
Second.
Councillor Cornish. Councillor, this has been through to council once, and we've also had information sessions on it. It's been out to the public, and I note there on one page that there have been, I think, 4 submissions. 2 of those have been changed in the plan, and the other ones, matters can be raised and negotiated directly with the stakeholders who made the submissions. I don't know if the General Manager would like to make a couple of comments on those public submissions. I think that's what we're here for. We've been through it, we've put it out, there's been a few changes, but it's rather close to what we put to the public.
Yes, obviously the feedback received in those submissions focused around the casino showgrounds, and obviously a lot of the new facilities out there, and some of those new facilities we'd proposed fees and charges. That was based on some benchmarking work that we had done. So we got some feedback on that, and have taken a couple of those on board in adjusting the rates for, in particular, the undercover arena. There's a few other issues that were raised there that we will continue to negotiate directly with the Pony Club to make sure they can make best use of those new facilities. So I think those adjustments have been made. I think that overall they were the main changes from that exhibition period.
On page 31, there's capital grants and contributions increases of over 3 million. And some of those dot points there, like the NRLX Effluent Management System, is 2.262. I know the grant was around the 5 million mark. It's just a bit confusing. Is that because they're carrying over to different financial years? Could I get clarification? And there's a few other ones there too.
Yeah, no, I think, and I could see that you got 2.62, and then you go down to the capital expenditure increase, and then you've got 3.5. So I might actually hand that over to either Director Gator or Mrs. Martin to explain the difference on those two.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, so some of those grant funding we receive actually in advance. So we would have received some of those grant funds this financial year, and they go into a reserve of unexpended grants to be carried over into the following year. So that would just be the revenue we would be expecting to be received next financial year, and the remainder would be sitting in reserves to be utilised.
Thank you. Any other questions? Or just, no one else? Well, just in closing, I will say that on page 32, our unrestricted cash surplus will be 273,000, which is pretty consistent with the previous 3 budgets. So we usually try to stay about that rather than run a deficit in that area. Well, that closes the debate. I'll put just a question, Mr. General Manager, before I get off that. We have on page 33 a bit of a table there of where Richmond Valley sits in the whole area for residential charges. I do note that Ballina is the cheapest rate. But when you have a population of 41,000 people and an area of 484 square kilometres, you have a closer area to work in, so you don't have to travel miles and miles to do work, you don't have to slash so many gravel roads on the side, and it's confined, so I think your garbage trucks don't have to travel as far. So I think the smaller the area and the bigger the rate base, it makes it more advantageous. You go to Sydney, you see all the high rises and all the bitumen roads, and they're getting all that bulk money because of the different rates. But I notice we're in the middle. If you work out the weekly cost, Kyogle is $1 a week on their rates cheaper. So I think what we're delivering is comparable with any other council on the cheaper side when you look at the two dearer ones. But that's only residential. Do you think in a report, matters for information, come back to council at a later date where you could have business, rural, residential and farmland at a later date, if that's possible? I just think it gives us an idea on our ratepayers where we're sitting in the equation with other councils.
Yeah, I'm sure we can put that information together. Obviously, when you're comparing these things, you know, the councils do have different categories, particularly within business zones, but happy to take that on notice, and we can bring a report, you know, back to potentially the next meeting. Obviously, I suppose residential is the bulk of people in our community, but as we know, businesses are critical. Businesses employ people and what they pay, and obviously, I suppose in the context of the regional job precinct, if we're positioned with cheaper business rates, then that can add to our attractiveness. So I think it's a useful piece of work. So we'll get that done and bring it back to council.
Thank you. If that closes the debate, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Page 37, item 18, general business, there's no reports. Matters for information, page 38. 19, could I get a mover, please? Councillor Cornish, seconder. Councillor Deegan. Has any councillor got any items they'd like to ask some questions on?
19.4, just a comment regarding the DAs.
19.4?
Yep.
Thank you.
Just a pleasing result with the processing days. It's down to 57 days with 17 DAs lodged. Granted, the cost of development's a little bit lower, so I don't know whether that relates directly to technicality, but it is pleasing to see when compared to other local councils how quickly they are pushing DAs through.
Let's ask a question on that topic.
Yeah.
The little table above that we've been getting in the council papers for quite a few years now, it's changed all of a sudden where they're counting the assessment days. They've actually now combined the building and the planning together to come up with a 33-day average. That's not how it has been, but is that going to continue that way? And then down the bottom, in the next one, it tells you what the gross average assessment time is for development applications on its own. A bit of difference.
Mr. General Manager.
I think the key difference is the one in the table above actually takes into consideration requests for information, of which you what's called stopping the clock. So that's where someone submits a development application, comes to the team, they assess it. I know I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but often there's a requirement for further information, so that DA can be assessed and then determined. And so, that's why that number is different. Obviously, the state government data has made the decision because obviously it's working from the planning portal and is just working on that the day it's accepted in the portal to the day it's determined, because that then, I suppose, limits the ability for that data to be manipulated. And people might think that a council conveniently leaves it on stop the clock. May happen, but I can assure you that we certainly keep an eye on it. And I think the result there, even with the gross assessment days at 57, when you look at many of those other numbers, it's still a good result. It's not to say that we're necessarily always satisfied with that, and there'll be anomalies, but I think overall the key message, which we say all the time, you submit a good DA that's fully complete, you'll generally have a good experience. And I think the other point, which we repeat, is that it's the New South Wales planning system. It's not the Richmond Valley Council planning system. We've got requirements that our team need to meet, and they're generally pretty adaptive and flexible where they can be, but they can't always be.
A good overview is to look at and that table that's in there all the time that says date received, date accepted, determination date, and then just have a quick look and see what the difference is. Then you get a fair idea what happens.
Any other speakers?
Mr Mayor, I would just like to make a comment, actually just reading from the report, because it is such an informative one, and it's just such, as the report says, the completion of the Namoona Resource and Recovering Cell 6 project is a milestone for our council. I can see here we're waiting for, the cell will be commissioned as soon as the EPA licence variation is approved, and that's not far away. But what the couple of paragraphs, it is a significant achievement for council, as it is the first project of this type that has been undertaken. Construction of the new cell has provided a solution to a looming risk and places the Richmond Valley in an enviable position when it comes to residual waste management compared to other local government entities. I still recall sitting around this table when we heard about the green sword. And I know that, like, recyclables, but everyone was like, it was just like, it was doom and gloom, like what was going to happen, where we were going to go, and here we are with a milestone asset for our community, and for 13 years, perhaps more. I look forward with interest to read the post-project review when it comes time for that. And thank you to everyone who's been involved in this incredible project.
Any other speakers? Just to follow up on that, Councillor Humphries, I believe it's a great outcome for our community. I know other councils are getting to the level of where are they going to go with their waste if the Queensland border closes. If that happens, we're right for 13 to 15 years. And there will need to be planning done in a couple of council terms to work on that, but it gives us breathing space in the future councillors, just some time to be able to do those studies. And all the time there are new, what would we call them, ways of treating waste coming out in forms of that. So it's one of those, it's an evolving process. So hopefully in years to come there'll be not much waste generated, there'll be more recycled and be able to use by the community. But till then, we're in a really good spot that, as you said, other councils would be envious of. And just back onto those, page 51, onto the comparative of the DAs, it says Northern Rivers Regional New South Wales Government for comparative data. So does the government put that out, or does council put that together?
The government puts the data out. They do it for every council in New South Wales, I understand. So there'll be 128 line items there. We've just pulled out the Northern Rivers councils and their data.
Right. So it's not...
yeah, we can pick and choose. We could pick similar size councils.
Yep.
There's basically this data is reported on
our route,
on
JO.
every council.
Yep. So it's definitely put out by the New South Wales government. It's not figures council put for us.
No, that's why the government shifted to the planning portal, so that there was a consistent process. The aim is that people can do development and they're following the same process regardless of where it is.
Well, when I look at that, it's a real feather in our council's cap. And to see some of those other councils in our area that are 3 times longer in processing that data, I think we're doing very well, and I'd like to pass that congratulations to all our staff in that area. I think it's a great outcome, and it just shows our community that look, we're doing our best. We'd like to get those those times down, but as the General Manager said, the better quality of the DA, the more streamlined that process will be. And I think the other councils are like us. There is problem finding planning staff, as we all know, as we talk to other councils. They're having trouble finding staff, and a lot of those staff are poached by other councils. We have a process where we're training ours, and hopefully they stay loyal and contribute to being a part of our staff for a long, long time. But well done, everyone involved in that. I thank you. Any other items? I think that was... I'm going back. Councillor Cornish, right a reply?
No.
Put that motion then. All those in favour? Thank you. Page 60, questions on notice, nil. 21, questions for the next meeting in writing. Has any councillor got a question in writing? No. Matters referred to closed council. Could I get a motion to go into closed council, please?
Mr Mayor,
Second.
Mr General Manager, has there been any written representation made regarding this meeting going into closed council?
No, nothing received.
Are there any verbal representations from the members of the public? No. Thank you for your attendance. Everyone have a safe trip home, please. Put that motion in. All those in favour? Carried. Mr General Manager, could you read the resolutions of closed council, please?
Yeah, I'll hand it over to our directors this evening.
Director Zeller.
In the item 22.1, tender VP 407583, design and construct Upper Cherry Tree Road landslip. Resolve that 1, council accepts the tender from the trustee for Santin Trust for the Upper Cherry Tree landslip remediation works, which represents the best value of $1,028,098 exclusive of GST, following the execution of the total upper limit approval funding deed from Transport for New South Wales, and 2, the General Manager be authorised to negotiate and finalise the terms and conditions of any contract or agreement in line with the content of this report and the available budget, and affixing the seal of council where necessary. In the item 22.2, tender VP 408338, design and construct Upper Montgomery Road landslip. Resolve that 1, council accepts the tender from the trustee for Santin Trust for the Upper Montgomery landslip remediation works, which represents the best value at $485,106 exclusive of GST, following the execution of the total upper limit approval funding deed from Transport for New South Wales, and 2, the General Manager be authorised to negotiate and finalise the terms and conditions of any contract or agreement in line with the content of this report and the available budget, and affixing the seal of council where necessary. In the item 22.3, tender VP 408552, design and construct MR145 landslip. Resolve that 1, council accepts the tender from C Civil Proprietary Limited for the MR145 landslips remediation, which represents the best value at $898,929.82 exclusive of GST, following the execution of the total upper limit approval funding deed from Transport for New South Wales, and 2, council contributes $28,209.64 exclusive of GST towards the betterment component of this project to improve the base rock armouring of the impacted sites, and 3, the General Manager be authorised to negotiate and finalise the terms and conditions of any contract or agreement in line with the content of this report and the available budget, and affixing the seal of council where necessary.
In item 22.4, tender VP 406817, supply and delivery of bitumen surfacing, stabilisation and asphalt services 2024 to 2025. Resolve that 1, council appoints the 9 successful tenderers for VP 406817, supply and delivery of bitumen surfacing, stabilisations and asphalt services 2024-2025 to its panel of suppliers, accepting the rates tendered to provide various materials for works up to the value of $149,999 inclusive of GST for the period 1 April 2024 to 31 March 2025, and 2, the General Manager be authorised to negotiate and finalise the terms and conditions of any contract or agreement in line with the content of this report and the available budget, and affixing the seal of council where necessary.
Thank you. That closes the meeting. Thank you for your attendance, and drive home safely, please. Thank you.